Okay, so this video is going to demonstrate removing a component with just your soldering iron. We understand not everybody has access to hot air, and so if you need to see just how to take something off with an iron, this applies to, you know, pretty much, well, most things. Some things, like I said, too small, you can't see it, but your switches, your volume buttons, some of your resistors, maybe if it has, I would say, 2 solder points, you could probably do this. Some things get a little more complicated, but hoping just to show this to give you an idea of what it takes. It is a good idea to invest in a hot air station if you're going to be getting into a lot of soldering, because it gives you another tool in your toolbox, so to speak, to solve different issues. But most things can be done with an iron, and we're going to show that right now. So here's the component, and this is part of the charging board. So right here, first things first, what we're going to do is we're going to try and just desolder these 2 connection points right here. So this guy and the one on the other side. So what we'll do first is, I think we'll try to apply just a little bit of flux just to help get these to flow. And we're just going to put a little bit of flux on a toothpick, so that way it doesn't just gush out everywhere. We can essentially just get a little bit right there, and a little bit right there. Okay. And now I'm going to hold this with my tweezers, and I'm going to see if I can heat this up and kind of wiggle it off on this side just a little bit. Okay, so that's flowing. So we're just going to try to hit it with our... Now when you're doing this, you want to be very careful that you don't lift the whole thing prematurely, because if you've got these pads still attached on this side and you lift it and you lift up, you run the risk of tearing those pads completely off the board. So you just want to be careful when you're doing this. Usually you're gonna heat those up, and then I'm gonna take my solder braid, see if I can't remove most of the solder that's on these pads right here. There we go. So I had the one side already removed, and this side we got, and that should have, let's see here, should have removed, there we go, that component. So we got that removed, and now we're just going to clean it up. We're going to inspect these pads right here, make sure that there wasn't any damage when we removed that. And those look pretty good. We're just going to heat this up here. Tin this tip. Okay. Okay, so let's try and remove most of the solder off of this. I'm just going to clean that up a little bit. And let me try some of this no clean flux right here. Okay, clean it off one more time. Let's get this prepped, ready to go for the piece to go back on. Okay, and that looks pretty good. A little bit. Okay, so we've got that cleaned, and now we can get the new piece kind of prepped and ready to go on. So the trick here is you've got the new piece and you essentially want to tack one of the sides in, kind of tack it in place so that you can then solder on the other side and get that fully attached, and then you come back and tack on the side you started with. So with this right here, I'm just going to see if I can't get this to melt a little bit. Okay, so that did stick a little bit. And I think with this, let's try to move it up just a hair. Okay. And you want to remember with all this, just take your time, because there really is no rush, especially when you're working with these little components. Now, to be honest, if you're doing something this small, you're going to need a pretty good magnifying glass or a microscope just to help, because things this small, it's just near impossible to to look at and solder just normally. So I'd recommend, if you're going to be doing stuff this small, to invest in a microscope or soldering iron or something, or a magnifying glass. Okay, so Okay, that was attached. But we'll touch it again. I'm actually doing that with my right hand. Okay, so we're seating that up and we're touching enough to get that connected. And I'm going to have to rotate this. Just get this from the side right here. Set that again. Okay, that looks pretty good. Double check this side. That looks pretty good. Okay, we're going to clean it again. Do a final inspection. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Let's just we'll check it under the microscope. Yeah, so those solder joints look, they're shiny. They all look like one piece. You know, I don't see any cold joints in that, and that's kind of what you want it to look like. You want it to just kind of be one smooth, shiny piece flowing over your leads and your pads. So if you only have a soldering iron to work with, that's essentially how you would remove and install a component. Desolder with your soldering braid, clean up the connections, install the new component, inspect, verify, and clean, make sure everything looks good, and then you can go on to test.